For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can use a waxed linen thread, the Nunn Design beads, and toggle and clasp to make fabulous bracelets. What you'll need for this tutorial are a variety of Nunn Design bindings, and I have those here. You'll also want to select if you want to use the brown or the black of the waxed linen thread. This is a 12 ply. This is ideal for this because the knotting is just perfect with these different beads. You'll also need for tools potentially you'll need some round needle nose pliers. This I used for some of the beads. I had to place this in here and kind of create a little bit wider hole, and I'll show you why I do that in a bit. You'll need some very nice smooth flat nose. We're going to use this to crimp the bead shut and secure it on the end, and a pair of scissors. So in two different places, here and here, we're actually using beads that we then crimp down to secure the thread. So the first part of this is deciding the length that you want for this. I have a very small wrist, so a typical 7.5 inch bracelet is a little bit too loose for me, but that's a typical size for a charm bracelet, or a bracelet like this would be a full 7.5 inches. So you can see that I made this one 7 because it's made to fit me, but we're going to be doing this tutorial with a 7.5 inch. So you'll need to take off, I'm using black, you'll need to take off a full 16 inches. I feel much better with having a little extra, so I actually did 2 strips of 9, but you'll need 16 inches to make a 7.5 inch bracelet. 2 strands of 8. The first step we're going to do is we're going to take this piece here and one of the small, this is a 4mm faceted bead, and you can see that it has a really nice size hole in there, and this is ideal for threading the wax linen thread through, but we're also going to be threading it through twice because we're going to back through it. So this is the hardest part of this project sometimes, is making sure that the thread comes back. We're going to thread it, one of them on, thread it through the top side, and if you start to find this to get frayed, you can just, because this is nice and waxed, you can kind of create a nice fresh point by just rubbing it like this, and then it just threads through very easily through the link. So I thread the first bead on, came through, and now I'm going to go back through on this bead so that I can make a finished closure. If the bead isn't quite wide enough for me to thread this through, so again, I like to get this nice and flat. I'm going to thread it through. So I kind of just squished the two ends of the wax linen thread together, and then just thread that bead right on. And then I'm bringing it back towards the end here, so I have very little excess. There. And then with those pair of nice flat rimmed, so this is nice and smooth in here, I have a flat part of that faceted bead, and I'm going to place it into, you can see how I'm doing that, I'm placing it right into the pliers, and then just crimping it down. And you have a nice crimped end, and that's what's going to keep that wax linen cord right in place. After you do that, you can just take a pair of scissors and trim away the excess cord that you have here. the start of a bracelet. So going back to my original, so I have the original start. You could tie a knot right after the start, which I think is what I'm going to do on this one, and then we'll start threading all of our other beads on. So this is a very simple overhand knot that we're going to be using. So you're going to create a loop that is over the top of the thread, so over, and then you come up from underneath so you have your knot. And you can see I'm kind of holding my hand right towards the end of the bead, and so that's where my knot will be versus way down here. And then slightly start to pull on the knot, and I'm just using my fingers to continue to bring the knot close to that end, and then you can pull tight. Pretty darn easy. And I'm not very experienced. This is just something that I've learned myself, so I'm not just making it look easy. And then I have like a pattern of, you know, small beads and big beads. So this is just, you know, your own aesthetic of what you like. So let me go ahead and thread some on, and then when we get down to this point, I will show you how to finish it off. Okay, so this is my last bead, and I'm going to be threading that through the toggle ring and then back through the bead and then crimping this tight. So if you do have a bead, one of the Nunn Design beads, again, this is really designed to be working with a 1.5 or greater leather cord, or around the 1.5 millimeter. But if it's not easy for you to get this linen thread through it, you can use a pair of round needle nose pliers and just place it on there. You're kind of using this as like a bead reamer, just to make sure that your hole is nice and wide for when you thread the wax linen thread back through on that second pass. So the first pass goes through, and then we have the ring. We'll place it through the ring and then back through the hole on the back side. I just kind of placed it inside of the hole and then kind of pressed the two threads together and then stopped. So I'm actually not going to finish this off until I get to the very end, because basically I want to be able to gauge the distance of like how tight I need to make that in order to have it be 7.5 inches from the end to end. So just I'm going to hang on to this just for a little bit longer and focus on the other side. So the other side with the toggle is going to be very similar to how we just did this. So I'll go ahead and show you that. For my second side, I have the second piece of wax linen thread. You'll need 8 inches. I just always feel nervous, so I give myself a little extra. I have 9 inches here, so you'll see I'll be trimming some, but it just feels better to me for some reason. So we're going to start out the same way we did before, where we have the 4mm faceted bead. Thread that onto the wax linen. Come through the top of the bracelet link. And placing it, give myself a nice tip. Place it right next to the other wax linen thread. And then press that through. Oh, you can see I have a little bit of fraying going on, so if you have fraying going on like that, where it's starting to separate the 12 ply, just come back and make a nice fresh point and try again. Move this bead down. So if this gives you a lot of problems, then try that technique where you put the a little fraying there, but I'm going to keep on going and I'll catch up there. Just come right on through there. So have your bead in place. I have a flat section of the faceted bead right on top. Then using my flat meaningless pliers, I just crimp down on that bead. And that's getting that to be nice and secure. What's great about the wax linen thread is there is no stretching. So not all linen threads are equal. I found this out by making many bracelets and then having them get bigger and bigger over time. So this is going to stay that length that we set it at. So a nice overhand knot, simple. So I tie the knot, keep it right at the end, and then I'm pulling. Move this out of the way so I can try to get closer here. Pulling, and then just securing it down. Beads over. So this is where we're going to use the ruler to determine the length that we want this to be before we crimp down on those final beads. So from here to here should be about 7.5 inches. And as you can see, I'm trying to keep this distance here and this distance here about the same. So that's about from the end of the bead. So if we push that all the way down, so we can do the end of bead, and this doesn't have to go that far, it can be right here. So that's about 1/2 inch. So bead, and then about 1/2 inch. So then those distances are the same, and that's a 7.5 inch. Just double check that. So if you wanted to make some of your bracelets 7.5, you might have some people who have even bigger wrists, so you might want to go all the way up to an 8 on some of them. But like I said, I wear a 7, so mine's a little bit smaller. All right, so once I know that I have it just at the distance that I want, I use my crimpers again. Come on in, right where that bead is nice and flat, and just crimp down slightly. And you'll feel that that's nice and tight. And then you trim away the excess cord. You could also, you know, keep that dangled down, and if you wanted to tie like another bead on here, that would be cool too. If you wanted to have a little dangle. So that's that end. So I'll zoom in here a little bit tighter so you can see this next one. Nice flat area of the bead. Crimp it down, tightening the bead on the thread. And double check to see that's nice and snug. Then trimming away that excess wax linen thread. Pretty darn simple. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this. It's actually really super fun to make these. This is very fun. So that's showing how you can start. So you can see that this one is a lot bigger on my wrist. You don't want them to be super tight because the wear of the plating on the bead, if it's right next to the skin, super tight over time, will affect the plating. So have it be slightly loose. So as you can see, I did mine really tight. There's not that excess bit on the end. And if you don't like having that excess bit like that, you can also do an extra bead or something on the end here and here. But this just allows you to have the flexibility of length. So you can see the 7 inches is just about perfect for me. All right, this is Becky Nunn. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to do a basic knotting, starting from the center and working your way out to the ends. Bye.